Hey guys, so today's quick look is going to be over the new dungeon event, Dead of Night. Looking like a very good event, so let's get right into it. So we have another rare capped smash gear. Not great, but not too bad either. This is the Harpy's Horde epic gear for this event, the Fatal Claw. It is novice in spirit, so first off, you're kind of blown away by the inclusion of a in-spirit gear. I think that's kind of crazy, to be honest, but the fact that they made it an epic gear and it'd be so difficult to get more than one or two of, maybe, unless you farm the highest level of Harpy's Horde, you really won't be able to get that many of them, and honestly I think that's only fair because Illume bands are powerful enough as it is, with the one thing going against it that normally they don't have as much HP as champs do. So that's why I've been okay with the whole, Illume with Mazit Wheeze against the in-spirit bands only having one way to actually do it, but having the Fatal Claw makes it kind of weird because now it has in-spirit as a gear, so it can have a secondary proc, I'm gonna guess, is probably 35% maxed out just because that would make sense. So, that being said, it's a pretty awesome gear if you're going to be using champs in like siege events or even trying to max out a Ovo or a Nurgle really fast, or even a Belsamiscon. I don't know if people use those anymore, but whatever. Uh, but yeah, overall, pretty awesome gear. Its agility boost is kind of weird, but I don't know. I guess it's really for those top of the line champs that don't have any speed behind them. So definitely look into it, but I wouldn't go for it unless you have a set like use that you're going to have for it, because otherwise it might end up just not being useful to you. So this is the gear that everyone's hyped about. It is basically a Mazit Wii with an additional Flawed, which is absolutely amazing. I have to commend DNA on coming up with these gears because these past two events, the dungeon events, I have wanted to compete so badly for these gears, and I never ever want to compete in dungeons, ever. There's never any reason for me to ever compete because I always just save my resources. You can always save bitters for other fighters, and it almost always ends up being better to just wait unless there's something special like a Jester Bangs, or there's one in this event, but I'll get to that later. But wow. This gear and Papa Zapper both are just amazing. This gear specifically is like I said, a Mazit Wii with an additional Flawed. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put this on a fighter that it can get edge on. Lady of the Lake. um, and then just get crazy bonus damage on the Flawed. I think it's 170% or more even. I don't know. I don't know if it'd be different for epic gear, but wow, this is such a good gear. Definitely spend the bitters on it, guys, especially if you're ever considering going competitive for raid or siege events, because this is absolutely one of the most insanely powerful gears I've ever seen. It's going to be really clutch for both of those events, and I'm definitely getting one, period. There is no way you could convince me to not get one. Yeah, so definitely go for this one if you can spare the few bitters you're going to need a day to get 60 to 100,000 points. And yeah, definitely go for it if you can. So, just wow. I'm surprised that they came out with this. It's a great idea for a epic gear, and it definitely got me interested in this dungeon event, whereas I might have only been interested in the first day, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Okay, so this isn't too bad. It's a preempt elite with over 4,000 attack and 4,000 agility. So it's not too bad. It's just okay. It's the Munadi recolor, so I don't know, if you're kind of newbie and you're trying to look for a line of preemptors, maybe drop the bitters on one of these guys and 2 Munatis for the cleanup. I don't know. Overall, it's pretty good, pretty good. So it's gonna be definitely a low budget preempt, but it's still pretty decent damage output, and definitely going to be helpful in getting the other day 1 fighter, which I'll get into later. But wow, um, day 1, oh my god, just crazy. Just watch the rest of the video, guys. I need to explain this. So this is the other fighter, the hero fighter for day 1. Oh my god. So it has over 8,500 wisdom on Thwart. Are you kidding me? This is one of the most ridiculously overpowered fighters I have ever seen. This is going to be something that will kill everything except maybe some champs. I'm not sure. People with super fusions on these after the event's over might actually kill champs that are the highest defense and HP in the game. And with agility super fusions, this is better than a Conifenius. So I'm guessing, just throwing it out there, that these are going to be worth 450 to 500 bitters for one maxed out, just based purely off of Conifenius's and Solagran's values before this event even started. So, funny story, I told you guys last week I was actually going to sell my Solagrand right after that video. It wasn't last week, it was a couple days ago. Anyways, I said I was going to sell it. So I sold it yesterday for 290 bitters. I lost 5 bitters, or 10 bitters, 5 or 10 bitters at most. And now, if you go to Solagrand, you'll see people selling them for the cheapest prices I've ever seen a Thwart for. So, it's going for roughly 250 or less for a very good super fusion Solagrand right now. Conifenius is maintaining its price because its agility is very high, and that's something that Momak doesn't have. So definitely still relevant and maintaining a decent price, but wow, the power on this thing is amazing. It's so powerful compared to any of the other preempt fighters or thwart fighters at this point that I don't know what DNA was thinking when they decided to release it. I'm definitely going to be farming it personally, hopefully getting a couple of the epics. I don't know, we'll see, I guess, but wow, over 8,500 wisdom on a thwart with just base maxed out stats is insane, and definitely something you want to be going for, because this is literally one of the best fighters I've ever seen in an event, period. And you definitely should look into getting him if you possibly can. That's the only reason that I would ever do a dungeon build, and I'm actually debating doing the first day dungeon build because it's just that ridiculous, and it's going to be so expensive. Like, I can't even imagine how much a maxed out one is going to be at this point. Like I said earlier, that I think it might be like 450 to 600, just maybe, floating in between there. But it has the potential to be much more than that, especially if people will look at the agility and realize that, hey, Conifenius is going hit for hit, blow for blow with this brand new fighter, and we're going to take advantage of that. And all of a sudden, they start getting some super fusions on them and take the just under 3,000 agility that it had up to over 6,500 with some decent fodder, obviously. It's gonna be ridiculous. I can totally see it being a Coney killer, so just wow is all I can say. It's so powerful. And to boot, it would make a perfect mid because it has over 4,200 HP base, which means it'll be able to tank hits with 3 BP as a main Illum fighter with Thwart. So it has endless uses at this point. It'll be amazing in PvP and amazing in Raid and Siege, and even amazing in like Harpy's Horde with a complement to any of the preempt dolls that are currently dominating PvP. So just wow, I can't even properly put into words how amazing this fighter is. You guys have to go for it. And again, we have a fighter that has a pretty decent sprite, but not a very good stat distribution, and not very much use, in my opinion anyways. I honestly don't see this being very useful in any situation, so I'll just say this, it's probably going to be used as low tier attack fodder, and that's about it. I could almost see a line of these being pretty good. Almost. If it had one cooldown, definitely a very, very good fighter if it had one cooldown. But at two, I really don't know what to think of it yet. Maybe people start using lines of them, but without too many other quicken items, quicken gears I mean, sorry. I don't know if I can really see it being useful, especially because in the case of an Illum band or a In-Spirit band, something like this would take lesser priority because you can't get as many quickens off on it as you can anything else, not to mention that you'd probably want to put something like Papa Zapper or even the hat that has Sting on it or any other Sting item for that matter, or even a quicken item on it instead of any other stat boosting item, and overall I can't see it being that useful. That being said, it does have almost, well, it has 7,400 agility, so that's pretty amazing, and boosts it to a very high valued agility fodder for super fusions. So definitely something to look into. If you can get it, by all means go for it, but I don't think you're going to see much value for this outside of its use as a fodder. So this is the cook, which I will call the cook and not its name, because come on DNA, I cannot pronounce that. So first, I'd like to say Double Fry is a pretty cool name for a skill. I think that this is going to be an interesting fighter. Being that it's a warlock, I'm not sure what to think of it yet. It has very low HP, very low defense, so maybe it won't be the best. But, its skill is probably a double skill that's a single target, wisdom-based skill. So I'm gonna guess that it's going to be pretty valuable, especially because it's a double skill and people don't know if what's going to be the next Paso Doble, which is a in-spirit elite fighter. I forget the name of the fighter, but I just remember the skill because it's such a crazy skill. It's a in-spirit elite and then an attack. So the next time that happens, which will be probably soon, I'd imagine, it's gonna fetch a pretty high price. So I can imagine this would go for a lot. I'm not entirely sure yet, but I guess we'll see. There are gonna be people that get it on the third day, so it's definitely not too far away. And maybe go for it if it's a double skill that's any good, if its multiplier is any good. I don't know yet. I really don't know on this one. And of course, we have our one hero that is absolute trash. Well, I shouldn't say that. Okay, so it's absolute trash based on its skill. Nobody wants that. Nobody's going to use that. It's nothing new. It's nothing that's strategically amazing. Nothing like that. But, there's always a but for everything. But, the attack is really, really good. That tops out at over 7,000. So, taking that, it's going to be a really, really good attack fodder for super fusions, especially for your a Tani Dusu for your all your preempt dolls, all your preempts. It's going to be great for that because you can just farm these really. Because with Frenzy, you can get a couple of them and probably max out one or two of them. You can offer stuff up for them for really cheap and get a couple of them. Basically, every time a really high tier fodder comes out for super fusions, you can assume that you're going to be able to take advantage of it for like frenzies, which I'm actually going to make a video on, by the way. I'm going to make a tutorial video of like the market and taking advantage of it, so you can stay tuned for that. But this is one of those types of fighters that's going to be really low valued right out of the gate. But then once people start to realize, hey, this guy actually has above 7,000 attack, and we can definitely use that for super fusions. That's what, 840 plus? That's insane attack super fusion. So once people realize that, they'll be like, oh my god, we have to get more of these, get them. Basically what people did with relics when they were selling them for, 10 for a maxed out relics, which was dumb. It's going to be like that, except this is even better by a long shot, and definitely going to be not worth much because it has Grime as its skill. So look into getting this one during the frenzy maybe. I wouldn't say get it right when the event gets to it, but that being said, you'll be able to really take advantage of it during the frenzy and directly afterwards. So yeah, that's about it, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate it as always. If you enjoy this, if you got anything out of this, please consider clicking that sub button below. It really helps me out as a content creator, and I make lots and lots of dot content every week, so there will be no shortage of new videos to watch. So thank you for watching, and until next time. Later on this week I'm going to be making the trading market video, so like I said, so yeah, good stuff. I'll see you then.